Syrian Girl has emerged over the last years as a very formidable geopolitical analyst and journalist, and a hate figure to all the worst people in the world. That's why I'm glad she's with us on the mother of all talk shows. Ma'am, these are difficult times. My condolences to you for the strife and trouble in your country. Perhaps you'd bring us first up to date by how the first week of rule by ISIS and Al-Qaeda in their new clothes, styled by Savile Row. How is that looking to you?
Well, as you could see, Syria has lost its entire air force, its army, its navy, its strategic defense weapons. Israel has invaded Syria and is taking more and more and more territory. They're bombing. They've done like over 400 sorties over Damascus. In the meantime, the revolutionaries run by the head chopper-in-chief, Golani, have been celebrating while this happens and vow not to do anything about Israel, and in fact concentrate on their efforts into attacking minority groups. I've seen people be beaten in the streets, people get shot, churches get looted, and this is the priority for these people. This is the so-called true vanguard, as they think of themselves, for the Palestinian cause. These people, I just want to say, George, I did hear what you have to say. You're absolutely right about everything you've said. I mean, there's people inside, Syria as well that are thinking, what is the point of supporting this when you have some of these people are essentially attacking themselves and benefiting Israel. Over the last 13 months, we've witnessed the most horrific genocide in history perpetrated by Israel on Gaza. And all of these people, and as a Sunni, I say these, all of these people would rather kill Shias than do anything to stop Israel from committing that genocide. And it's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting.
Is that because it's easier for them to kill Shiites, either literally or as keyboard warriors on the screen? Or is it genuinely the case that they never really cared about Palestine in the first place? After all, if they did, how could you celebrate making Israel stronger? How can you celebrate making the Palestinian resistance weaker, unable to resupply itself, unable to receive fresh ammunition, unable to receive money from the one place where they were getting all three throughout this struggle?
Well, there's a fellow called Muhammad Hijab who styles himself as one of the heads voices for these Salafist type individuals, and he came out and said that he views Assad as worse than Netanyahu. So it just goes to show you the kind of mentality that these people have. They do not value the Palestinian cause. They have sold Syria to Israel in order to take power. And what I want to point out very clearly to everybody here is that Israel is going to war with the people of the Levant. It's Syria, it's Lebanon, and it's Palestine that are being occupied and slaughtered. And the majority of these people that are coming to save us, are not actually white, but they're from all over the Central Asian nations, Uzbeks, Turkmens, Pakistan, also some of the Gulf Arab states are included in this. And they do not understand our people. They do not understand our history, and they do not care. They honestly do not care. And I've heard them say that Chinese Uyghurs have more right to own property in Syria because they fought for it. So what does that sound like to you? They are Muslim Zionists. In the same way that Israel is the Jewish ISIS, these people are Muslim Zionists. They they want to steal our land and they want to kill us, and they don't give a crap if they're sharing with Israel. That's the reality of the people we're facing. And they're not necessarily even Arab, you know? We, the people of the Levant, historically we spoke Aramaic. We we adopted the pan-Arab ideology, and unfortunately the only really the Arabs that have helped us so far, God bless them, are the Houthis, the Iraqis. So, you know, unfortunately, that we can no longer expect very much from them, because instead of helping us, the majority of them have actually betrayed us to Israel. And Saudi Arabia is part of that, because just before October 7th happened, they were about to normalize with Israel. And the UAE was the first step into that experiment. So I'm sorry, but these people are the ones that are celebrating democracy in Syria. Qatar doesn't even have a democracy in Syria. It was the one funding, Qatar doesn't even have a democracy in their own nation. And they're the ones that have been funding this, essentially, this Turco-Mongol invasion of Syria.
I went to China with President Arafat 40 years ago, and the Chinese leadership said this to him. The Arabs are not serious about liberating Palestine. If they were, they could all just walk there. Israel does not have enough bullets to stop them. They could take it by simply walking into it. Arafat was very offended by it. But it is abundantly clear by now, isn't it, that these countries that have normalized relations with Israel, these countries which are collaborating in the genocide with Israel, are not only uninterested in the liberation of Palestine, they are against the liberation of Palestine. And this week we saw the Mahmoud Abbas military forces shooting dead teenagers in Jenin. I saw it myself. Now, I have never attacked them in this way before, but I will from henceforth. When I see Mahmoud Abbas, that I've known for 40 years, his gunmen killing children in Jenin, to assist Israel in guaranteeing its security, I'm afraid all bets are off from me. How do you feel about it?
You know, it's clear that there's this drive now to push us away from using violence as a means of resistance. And the people that are doing it to us are treasonous to the highest order. As you said, the PA are doing this in the West Bank, but also the treason revolution, the traitors that have taken over Syria alongside their Uyghur terrorists from China and the Turkmens, etc. The ones who have invaded Syria, they have also cut off armament supplies to Hezbollah. So essentially, they are preventing us from defending ourselves against Israel. And they're not lifting a finger and allowing Israel to steamroll all through Syria. And when you point this out to them, they say, "Oh, you want us to commit suicide by attacking Israel?" It's ironic that these are the same people that would criticize the Syrian state under Hafiz al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad for not going to war against Israel in the Golan Heights, right? Even though back then Israel was kept at bay and wasn't expanding, and Syria was able to defend its airspace. They were able to shoot down an Israeli jet in 2018. They fired a missile at Dimona nuclear reactor, but that is something they still criticize, and yet they're literally selling Syrian land to Israel in exchange for power. And they're not lifting a finger or anything about it. And their excuses, well, that would be committing suicide. So the hypocrisy is clear.
I didn't think that people with their mentality had this concept of suicide. I thought that fighting Israel for Palestine would not be suicide. It would be something different and would lift you straight to heaven. So how can they say, well, you want us to commit suicide? So it's suicide now to try and liberate Jerusalem?
Yeah, I mean, these are the same people that basically death marched and death rushed into Russian and Syrian fighter jets bombing them. That was okay. That was martyrdom for the cause, you know. That for that time, their deaths was not a suicide. That was you know, doing like having shahada. But if it comes to Israel, okay, that's when they stop. That's when the Uyghurs from China and the Turkmens decide, you know what, we're going to go home and attack our own countries. Literally, the Chinese declared that the Chinese Uyghurs declared that they're going to go back to Xinjiang province and cut off China from the Silken Road, the Belt and Road Initiative. So, but you know, that's not suicide. That's not suicide. You know, it's funny, as you say, you know, you could have walked right in. At the moment, these people, you know, they haven't really, they basically spent 13 years undermining the Syrian state with sanctions. And what I want to also point out is that the Syrian military didn't actually get defeated by these people. They were told to retreat. They were ordered to retreat and surrender. The you know, people were willing, the Syrian people were willing to fight. Okay, we've been fighting for this cause for 13 years because we know it's about Palestine. And it's not just about Palestine, it's about Syria. It's about opposing Zionism. And we know that these people are going to hand us over on a silver platter to Israel because look at the people who are behind them. It's the United States, it's the CIA, it's Project Timber Sycamore, it's the UK, it's the normalizer states in the Gulf Arab states, and it's Turkey. Turkey that makes the shoes that the Israeli military wears and has done for years. Erdogan, who claims that he doesn't do trade deals with Israel, who's selling them oil. I mean, what has he done to stop the Israeli invasion of Syria? He talks about how he's a part of NATO and is going to be the new Ottoman Empire. Why hasn't he done anything about the invasion of Syria by Israel? You know, you could spend 13 years to destroy one of the only states that is actually giving armaments to the resistance that fights Israel. You can do that. And for you, that's Islam, right? That's Islam for you. But when it comes to actually doing a single thing to not only like try to stop the spread of Israel into Syria, but maybe do even a symbolic thing to stop the genocide in Gaza that's ongoing, and they won't do that. That would be suicide, right? So the hypocrisy is at least this has exposed the hypocrisy of these people because God does not love these people. He hates them.
I've been doing a lot of intensive rereading of Sykes-Picot. In fact, my wife far more intensively than me. She's becoming an expert on the subject. How much of this is traceable back to the Anglo-French betrayal of the Arabs 100 years ago? We were looking at the map of the actual Syria, not the Sykes-Picot truncated Syria that existed before last week. It's now even more truncated and more small. But of course, Syria was not just what we know as Syria, but Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine too. It's no accident, is it, that Sykes and Picot were betraying the Arabs with false promises of an Arab independence and statehood if they supported the Allies rather than the Ottomans. And at the same time, were giving Palestine away in the Balfour Declaration. These things are all linked, aren't they?
You know, history is bound to repeat when you don't learn from it. In 1920, the Syrians, after overthrowing the Ottoman Empire, because they were tricked by Lawrence of Arabia, they essentially declared independence, as you said, with Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria as one state, which, you know, this region has always been Bilad al-Sham. It's always been connected. But the French and the British invaded, and they divided, they conquered, and they created Israel. And Turkey was actually one of the first nations to recognize the state of Israel at that time. And they also took a piece of Syria, Hatay province, that they haven't returned. So um, it's essentially the same thing. You know, they came in saying we're going to give you democracy, we're going to give you independence from the Assad regime. And what are we getting? We're getting Al-Qaeda Golani as the de facto leader of Syria. Who knows? Abu Muhammad al-Julani is not even his real name. That's his Al-Qaeda name, by the way. It's interesting that they chose the name Jolani because what he ended up doing is handing the Jolan to Israel, so probably that's by design. Um, they're trying to carve out a Kurdish state east of the Euphrates. The Israelis are trying to carve out a Druze state in the south, and they are hoping also to cut the rest of Syria off from the coastal region and make it a landlocked country, which actually was what the Balfour, the Sykes-Picot people were wanting to do to Syria, but what we fought against all those years ago. And it's the same thing, really. They were tricked, they were fooled into accepting this freedom. And what ends up happening is Syria is getting balkanized, and all of its defenses and everything that has been built since the day of independence has been destroyed. And you know, we're actually maybe doing them a kindness by saying that they've been fooled, because I do think that some of them are just truly evil, and they know that this is the case, but they are honestly choosing to destroy the Levant for the sake of Israel, because for them it's about power and control, and that's it.
Thank you very much indeed for your heartfelt testimony of your country's travails. Thank you, Syrian Girl. Follow her on social media. She's very effervescent and you could say energetic commentator on events in the region and far beyond, I should say.